Good morning, everybody, and welcome to
Morning.
another reaction and review to Marvel's Loki, episode 2 on Disney Plus, available now. You might be wondering why we're on here so early, but that's just because time flows differently in the TVA. And joining me today, of course, I am Justin, but joining me is Lucas, the Disney Grizzly Abels.
What's up, guys?
And Luke, we're going to start off real quick with where did we leave off in the first episode before this one started?
We left off with the Loki
Spoilers.
variant. Sorry. We left off with the Loki variant.
If you haven't seen the first episode or you haven't seen this one yet, like we're just gonna go right into the spoilers all the way.
Yeah, we're pretty much gonna be doing spoilers nonstop, guys. So we instantly just go straight into where the Loki variant is proven to be a Loki variant and sets fire to everything essentially and kills a bunch of TVA members. That's where we're stopping at.
Yeah, that's where we pick up with this new episode.
Exactly.
And so do the recap, Lucas. Like, so after that we get back into the TVA. We got, what was it, Loki starting to get his footing with his new job.
I'm trying to remember right off the rip because I watched it with Carla last night and it was a little long of a night. But so essentially we're getting Loki still being Loki, like Avengers Loki. It isn't like Loki from like Thor, like Ragnarok and like Infinity War Loki. So he's still very pompous. He's still very arrogant. He's still very all about himself with no like remorse for what he's doing. But there's shimmers of it in there, kind of, because he is like just wanting to become better. It's just he isn't there yet. So he gets this cool jacket, and then there's a big joke about it. The Hunter, what is it, Hunter B1 something or whatever, and she's just like, do you think I would let people not know you're a variant, essentially, because on the back of his jacket he says variant. I like it. Mobius cool. Is still Mobius this time though isn't very like encouraging. This whole episode he's very like, I'm doing what I'm doing because I need to get it done, whether you want to believe that I have feelings for like your feelings or not. You can have it on your own for that, but I'm doing my job right now.
We get very existential in this with, that like this, like me and Lucas were talking. This is a lot happens in this episode, but a lot also it's mostly through exposition and dialogue.
Yeah.
And from the outside looking in, you're like, oh, that, we still are not getting into the heavy action yet. And no, this episode is, hit after hit after hit of great conversation. Great. It's almost like, the Game of Thrones golden age before it kind of went to the gutter. Where you have awesome.
I don't know. I can't compare Game of Thrones, unfortunately.
Well, the spirit is dialogue, conversation, and we get that in spades here. And we get this really long-winded but very excellent exchange that kind of speaks to the existential nature of because Loki's like, well, don't you think this is a little weird to Mobius, like the timekeepers created you? Aren't you like weirded out about where you came from? And then of course Mobius turns
no. It's like, if you think about where you came from, then you might have like a breakdown or like a mental
yeah. And he pokes at him. He's like, oh, well, who's your dad? He's like, a frost giant named Laufey. And who raised you? Odin, the king of Asgard, and this
god of the heavens, the god of the heavens,
right? And he's just like, if you think about anything, it's weird. So it's just this concept of like, it almost has like a religious overtone where they're just like, who cares what you believe if it brings you peace and
moral relief,
and purpose as Mobius like legitimately states. And as on the nose as it is, these two actors really pull it off and keep it going.
I like the anger or like the frustration we're getting from Mobius now, Owen Wilson's character. Like the first episode made me think he was just going to be like, whimsical Owen Wilson, very like soft spoken and like, oh, let me make some funny jokes here and there, but they're not really like funny. They're just they're just very like plain and bland jokes, basically, and bland nature. But we saw some real frustration coming out from Mobius this time around, and excitement too. So we could see like this character isn't just another Owen Wilson character where it's Owen Wilson playing Owen Wilson in all his movies. It's someone who belongs in the MC universe. So,
right. I mean, I still think he's Owen Wilson playing Owen Wilson, just in the same way that Samuel Jackson is playing Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury. But yeah, funny girl, funny,
very funny. And then, are the timekeepers real people or are they statues? Okay, so when we get
to make believe comic book characters,
that's one of them. There's a theories and predictions section, Katrina, that we like to incorporate into the show. So when we get there, we're definitely going to talk about it because I have a theory about what's going on with the timekeepers. Because the judge Ravana, I can't remember her name off the top of my head or how to pronounce it, but there's a connection to her to another MCU character. So back to the recap, kind of what we're doing. So essentially, they start going to different timelines, and they take Loki to basically a Renaissance fair, and we see like that where one of the TVA. Hey, Carla. They see where one of the TVA members had been kidnapped and a bunch of other TVA members had been killed. So then Loki goes on this huge tangent, basically Loki being Loki and saying like, well, they're outside waiting for you because that's what I would do. So essentially Loki was trying to like cause a distraction and get them to like believe him so they can go outside and probably him disappear. Because his whole deal is to get away from these people, even though they've proven they can find him time and time again. And then Owen Wilson almost believed him, or Mobius almost believed him.
Right.
And then he said no, and they went back to the TVA.
He's got this like little hesitation moment where he's just like Loki's given this like big monologue, and he just looks at him and he's like, no, he's lying. He's lying.
I can see that, Jake, a lot actually, because okay, so I'm gonna wait till the theories and like prediction area, but so take them back to TVA. Mobius is like, here, I got a job for you. Search through all this material about the variant,
right?
And then Loki sits down, and then he's going through the papers and finds out about the apocalypse, and then we find out something within the timeline, because supposedly the timekeepers keep track of the time, and if something breaks off in the timeline, then they send in the TVA agents to fix the timeline and erase them with these little eraser bombs that they all carry.
A reality reset.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it's a bunch of different like cosmic mumbo jumbo.
Mumbo jumbo is the right terminology.
So he finds out that during a apocalyptic cataclysmic event where there's no survivors, you can do whatever you want before that. Basically, you can cause a variant in the a variance in the time stream and you get away with it. So he's like, if I was
it won't cause enough difference to the actual event
because everything's going to change. Because nothing's going to change.
Yeah, the ultimate outcome is not affected.
So he runs and tells Mobius this, and that's when one of the best metaphors or scenes in a MCU is the salad. It's the salad scene where he explains the chaos theory. Whereas, like, if anything,
when DC makes content,
exactly,
we will be there, just like we're there when,
exactly.
We're DC fans too.
But right now, Marvel is in the.
Has DC come out with something that we don't know about?
I don't think so.
Didn't we do Snyder Cut? Anyway, moving on. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex. Yeah. So he then proceeds to tell Mobius, using this like using his salad as a metaphor, and all of the time while he's explaining chaos theory, where it's like, you can put this in here, and you can put this in here, you can put salt, you can put pepper, you can put this soda. And then he's just sitting there mixing it all up. And it's like, you can do whatever you want to this salad, but at the end of the day, when the apocalypse happens, nothing's going to change.
And then he grabs the juice box
and pours the juice in there as well. And the whole time, which makes this scene the funniest thing, is Owen Wilson's being or Mobius is being Owen Wilson basically, and just muttering, "Don't be doing that to my salad. I just wanted my salad. Please give me my salad. I want my salad. I wanted that salad." He's not angry, but he's just like blank with
that's what you were getting at. Like,
yeah,
again, where you're talking about, we're getting like the shades of frustration. Like if frustration had 10 levels to it, Owen Wilson or Mobius' frustration is like that of 4. He's just like, oh man, like
he's dealing with like Loki right now because he's being told Loki doesn't need to be part of his solution to a bigger problem.
Right.
So at the end of the day, they go to Ravonna, whatever her name is, because now he is like, hey, I need to use this Loki variant, but she's like, I don't agree with this. He needs to be like reset, blah, 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 blah. So we go into the next part of the scene, which is Pompeii. Like he takes him to Pompeii finally.
Such a blatant, not even apologizing ripoff of Doctor Who that they go to Pompeii because, of course, one of the most famous Doctor Who episodes is Pompeii. I believe they go back multiple times throughout the show's history because it's a historical apocalypse event, and the show not playing coy with its Doctor Who influence.
It's very Doctor Who feeling.
Go right on to freaking Pompeii. I was just like, oh,
coming down to the weird like whisper music going on, like the.
I think that's a little bit of a reach, but
it made me think of it instantly because when we watched Doctor Who together, granted I didn't watch a lot of it, I watched a little bit of it.
Trust me, it's there. But like, what the point I was going to make is like, even though we get this Pompeii scene, I feel like the show gets less and less Doctor Who-y as we watch it, and we're only on episode 2. But it's just so funny that they're in Pompeii.
Yeah. So he proves his point by like causing a ruckus, basically speaking English, telling these people in Latin. By the way, Loki can speak Latin. That it's the end is coming. Nothing you do matters. Do whatever you want.
Very reminiscent of the Jurassic Park meme of the guy sitting there like, "Hey, this guy's trying to steal secrets. See, nobody cares."
Exactly. So.
But with Loki being
Mobius looks at like his like variance radar basically, and is like, "There's no red line." So he's like, "He's right." So then the volcano hits, everyone dies, etc. But so fast forward again, now they're raiding. They figure out where the variant's from because they have a lead. Gum. They have this kablooey gum that they left. It's from the future, from the Roxart corporate like Megamarts Corporation. Roxcart.
And speaking of which, we'll get to that later.
So they go there because there's supposed to be a hurricane that hits there and wipes out the whole area. So comes to find out,
Alabama.
Yeah, exactly. Come to find out the variants there, that they're body hopping people. Makes sense now too. So I noticed something last week when they showed the variant. The variant was wearing a raincoat when it wasn't raining. So the fact that that variant was wearing like a rain poncho makes sense because they're in a hurricane apocalypse area. Going through the rain. I mean, yes.
It doesn't. The scene where Loki is just like, I just use magic to dry myself. So she technically doesn't need the raincoat.
She doesn't need it, but it was a rain poncho. So
by the way, we're talking about she because it's Lady Loki.
Big spoiler alert right off the rip. Right off the rip, big spoiler alert. Yeah. So, anyways, the Loki variants inside of the actual supermarket, they find out they're there. As we're walking around, we see like the eraser bombs laying everywhere. We get into a conflict between Lady Loki and 2012 Loki and
our favorite variant Loki.
Not mine.
Sarcasm, but yeah.
I know. But 2012 Loki and Lady Loki get into a conflict, but we don't see them fighting each other because she's body hopping between a bunch of different bodies to like keep them in the loop and keep them confused. It's like just basically telling them like, you're not the best Loki. Why am I interested in you? There's no reason why I'm interested in you. And then we come to find out always patient. He knows the TVA is that for now. True, very true. I agree with that. So they're fighting, they're like having a conflict going on, and all of a sudden she like beats him finally. And then that's when he's like, well, what do you want from me? And then she reveals herself as Lady Loki, and she's just like, this isn't about you. Presses a button, and then all the time bombs enter their little like dimension portals. And then you cut to the TVA, and you see 13 different spiraling out branches of all red lines.
Yeah, it's a lot of tell not show, because like, you know, the cliffhanger is we probably will get to see those after effects, but we don't really know what actually happened. Like, we know the bombs went, and we know kind of where they went based on the coordinates that were programmed into the thing. There's like a list of different coordinates that you can see. But
and then at the very end, we see Mobius finally catching up to them within the supermarket, and Lady Loki steps through one of the time portals and leaves the dimension gate open. And then Avengers 2012 Loki variant steps through the portal, and Mobius finally see the frustration, like the actual frustration of like, we lost this guy and we lost the other variant too. Like, what do we do?
Or he like, again, keeping with his chill. Damn it. He's just like, damn it. It's like this cutest little like expletive. It's like,
yeah, Jake. So they're definitely going to get into that. That's definitely something I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to say real quick on my thoughts on this episode, just in general, because that was our quick recap of the episode. But actual thoughts on this episode, guys. I think so far for me, this is the best of the TV shows, just from 2 episodes.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Exactly what I was going to say.
Granted, Falcon and Winter Soldier tickles the itch that I love from Marvel, because it's a Captain America story, and those stories I think are the best stories for me personally. Those were my favorite like character stories, where it came from first Avenger to Civil War, even though Civil War was kind of just like an Avengers movie, like an Avenger-esque movie, because on big, huge ensemble cast. But this is tickling the itch that I've been wanting to have, because I love multiversal, different dimensions, different variations, different tellings of a character, and the fact that I'm starting to get that. And I never thought, when Marvel first, came out on the streets with what they were doing, I never thought we would get multiversal, multidimensional stories. I never thought we would see different variations.
Yeah, when Nick Fury showed up, he said, "You've become a part of a bigger universe." He didn't say multiverse. He said bigger universe.
Exactly. So I thought we were going to stay. I thought we were going to stay within like kind of the realm of the 616 universe, just like, because the MCU kind of blends a bunch of like, there's some ultimate stories or ultimate variations of the characters and like MCU variations together in one, universe. Because they never really tell us what universe the MCU is. At least I don't know it. But I'm sure there is.
Talked about that. We'll get into that in a little bit.
I'm sure there is a number for this universe or a name for this universe, but the fact that it's confirmed now from that very tiny scene that it's going to be a multiverse, because there's at least 13 different strands coming off the timeline. That's 13 different new universes essentially being made at one time.
For now.
Exactly.
Like we don't know how monumental or how
big the repercussions are going to be.
Yeah, or if they're just going to be easy.
Exactly. But thoughts, it keeps getting better. Like WandaVision set the tone for how good a MCU show can be. Sorry, guys, can be. And then Winter Soldier escalated that by giving us really good character building, really good emotion, and really good story. Now Loki is giving us even better character building, because they're building on a character that we've had for all these years, who have been basically like not just a side character in some movies, but like the buddy, basically like split screen with like Thor, who was the main ticket character in Thor Ragnarok. Exactly. He basically had almost as much screen time as him. Not as much, but almost as much. So he had a bunch of story and building from these characters already, but we just wiped that slate clean. Tom Hiddleston gets to flex his muscles and act like a character he was playing back in 2012, 2011. And we get to rebuild this character from scratch, essentially, and having this whole new world and having a whole new aspect of things. I think that's amazing. Dialogue is great. The dialogue is amazing. I can't believe like how quippy it is, but it's not like typical MCU fashion quippy. It's like smart quippy. It's like something I could akin to a Quentin Tarantino film during some of the dialogue.
Because it's a TV show. They give you a lot of time. There's not this extreme sense of pace where you're waiting and waiting like for the next action scene. No, this is very action light and dialogue heavy. And for a Marvel show, after having seen as many movies, it's like that's a little strange. But like when you sit there and watch it, it goes by real quick because that's the strength of this show is the dialogue, is the writing, is all of these elements that don't require action scenes, but because it is Marvel, you know they're coming, and there's enough sci-fi and oddness and technology being used and great cinema like world building and visuals that you're still in for the ride, and it never feels boring.
Yeah, exactly. I know I've saw the 616 shown on some paperwork and stuff and like in the background, but I can't bring myself to like believe that this is the 616 universe. I don't want to. I think this is another variant of a universe within the Marvel pantheon. And then Loki is only 6 episodes. I don't think we're going to fully deal with the multiversal catastrophe that happened. So that's I'll talk about that in a second as well. But
so you're talking about 616. Me and Jake were talking about like the movie universe itself is like just like the comics, the mainstream, the mainline universe is 616. The TV and movie universe is the 616 of the TV.
Okay. So we're not even thinking that like the MCU. So say here's 616 is Marvel Prime, right, where everything has always happened. So we're not saying that like the MCU is just like another branch of that. It's not like say the world where Spider-Gwen comes from is like, you know, that universe, whereas like MCU is like over here next to like the 616 where it's just another, don't even think the comic books exist essentially.
Right. And then the other episodes would be, or the other universes would be in the movie verse would be like the Into the Spider-Verse or the Venom or the Morbius movies coming out that don't.
Okay, so because I've always thought
just in my head, that's not like the official way.
It's not official for sure until Disney comes out and tells us what's canon, like they did with Star Wars. We don't know what's canon.
No, Mickey Mouse strangles Sony and is like, "You better put your characters in our movie." So we'll. I don't know. So this episode to me though, like I said, it's just another great example of like what happens when you actually hire great writers that aren't relying on a gimmick. So like if you compare this to WandaVision, like you said, WandaVision set a bar. I think this leaped over that bar, but not to diminish the quality of WandaVision. WandaVision is great, but it's also great for different reasons because it relies so heavily on the celebration and gimmick TV drama, the sitcom homage, which is love it or hate it. That's part of the show. My mom hates that.
Yeah, I think they do, Jake, because going into the new No Way Home movie, which is I think is one of the reasons. Anyways, you're saying a lot of stuff I want to talk about later.
Right. So we'll get into that, but like for like our predictions on the future and everything, and hopefully we'll keep it short.
Yeah.
But with what was I saying? So you got WandaVision is very gimmicky because not in a bad way. If you like that, if you don't like it, it is a bad. But what it ends up detracting from though is when you see Wanda and Vision for half of the show, they're play acting in like as different characters, different versions of themselves, which is interesting.
It's
But
actors
we don't get a
acting
lot
as
of time.
actors.
We
for
don't get a
acting.
lot of
Yeah.
time to see them grow because we're focused on what are they going to be like in their 70s version? What are they going to be like in their 80s version? What are they? So whereas
See, whereas
Falcon Winter Soldier was very action heavy, it was doing so much. There was so much going on, like with Zemo and the Flag Smashers and Baltra,
Power Broker,
Power Broker, Baltra,
Petra, the Reaper,
the old Captain America, the failed
Isaac,
and like some story. And so there's so many characters, there's so many storylines, which is good. We're talking comparing very like different carats of gold here. They're all gold. Loki is just the most pure gold because what we have is two great actors that the show has consistently relied on for their excellent chemistry. And now that we have the surprising but not so surprising reveal of Lady Loki, I'm wondering what kind of presence she's going to have going forward because just from
she seems a lot more
uses,
serious just from the very like aspect of what she's doing and her dialogue with Loki. She's still got that Loki like flair where she's the smartest where she thinks she's the smartest person in the room.
Well, technically, she personally only has like one line, whereas like already the writing is so good and the directing and is so good that we're getting to see shades of her
through
other actors, which leads to the mystique of who is this character going to be, and so we get that final line, the final like short monologue between her variant main character Loki, Hiddleston Loki, where we're just getting that, what we're smelling the food coming from the kitchen. We haven't sat down to sink our teeth into it yet. So we'll see it next episode, and I'm wondering if she'll be able to, elevate herself to the level of.
Do you mean related, Katrina? Is that what you're asking? That's because that's what I'm reading this as. If so, no, it's just a variant of Loki, a different variant. Yeah, man, I don't know. I can't say any more about this episode because there's not much to talk about. Like besides,
we could talk about
this is an episode that is like an implications episode,
right?
Where I didn't think that they would drop so much information on us and in the second episode.
Yeah, WandaVision made us wait for the big spoilers. If you haven't seen WandaVision, the reveal took place in the penultimate episode, whereas this is like episode 2. We were playing, mystery who's that Pokemon with Lady Loki and with the raincoat. But like, no, we revealed to you really quick that it's Lady Loki. You're not sitting there hanging on like, who is it?
Exactly, and Winter Soldier didn't drop us anything big. The only big like super reveal is the Power Broker in the last episode, and that's like a good way to reveal like your main villain at the end, like one of your main upcoming villains. So I mean, like that made sense. But the whole season gave you like tidbits on every episode, whereas this one's just like episode 1. Okay, Loki's dealing with time travel. Well, guess what? Episode 2, we're dealing with the multiverse. Boom, instant. Done.
Her entrance in throwing everything through the loop. Oh
my goodness, Alex.
I'm so confused.
You have me all kinds of cattywampus right now.
Like, if you're gonna be on this podcast, you have to watch the shows. That's your entry fee.
But so let's move into this one real quick, Justin, because I got like one that stood out to me. Oh, 2 that stood out to me. Anything glaring that stood out to you? Not like glaring as in bad, but glaring as in like anything that like definitely stood out to you.
Wait a minute. I just completely, I gotta do 180. He's like, is Alex asking if the character Batman will show up in the show or if he'll show up in the podcast? Because I'm so I don't know.
Moving
on.
Moving on.
Love you, Alex, but like I'm confused. The thing that stood out to me the most, like I think going forward, like getting into the heads of these writers, the idea of how well they're setting up and paying off with not too much time, but not like too quick either. So it's like we got the anticipation of who the mystery Loki was, and they paid off on that. Right now, I'm looking for things that they're setting up, and there was a conversation with Loki and Mobius where I feel like they're setting us up to want them to have this friendship, this bromance, because there's a
Yeah.
conversation where Loki is starting to peel back, like the first episode is all about peeling back Loki's layers. Loki has zipped his layers back this episode and wrapped himself back around that fake ego persona of I want to be the baddest bro in the room, and is now turning it back on Mobius, who is just so chill. He doesn't care, and he's very open. So he's like starts to ask him about jet skis. Right? You remember that scene, Lucas?
I do.
Jet skis. So he's like, "What do you want to do? Do you want to ride a jet ski?" He's like, "Have you ever rode a jet ski?" And he's like, "No, but I'm a huge fan because it's just one of his hopes and dreams. He loves the jet skis. He loves that about reality and time. I believe that is set up, and I don't want to get my hopes up anymore for like the Kang the Conqueror stuff. But like what stands out to me is all these setups. It stands to reason that we're gonna get Loki like sneak Mobius at some point to go ride a jet ski and them becoming like friends. But I don't know if we're gonna go down that road. But why have that conversation if you're not gonna pay it off? And they've been paying everything else off. So
yeah,
that
exactly.
really stood out to me, like where I was just like, huh. The music this episode was a little more retracted. It wasn't as big in your face. But I still like the music and just the overall like with the TVA. The other thing that stood out was there was a scene where I don't really recall the specifics of it because I watched it, not recently, like right when it came out. Where I don't know if they're doing the hurricane thing. They're in the rocks cart, and there's refugees wanting help, and one of the TVA agents is just being a
little butthole.
Butt. Yeah, to the people, and Owen Wilson or Mobius is like,
they're scared.
Why are we treating them like this? This isn't how we do things, and it's really like showing you that maybe the TVA is not this good force for good. Maybe the people here are actually pretty bad, and Mobius is like the only one trying to do anything good.
It's like good cop, bad cop. Like you can have a bad cop force, but you can have one good cop on the force to try and make it justified. Because the Hunter B1, whatever her name is, she's pretty much a butthole too, like for no apparent reason.
Well, she had beef with Loki, so
well, of course she did, but like she was being a butt to him to begin with.
But she's a roided out
think about it. Episode 1. Cop. Well, think about it. Episode 1, the one guy was just, being snarky to him in the line with a ticket, and he erased him from existence.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. You got to think they're doing that quite a bit, and that's what they've been gunning for with the Loki variant. They're like, oh, just reset him. Just reset him. Why do you have him around? And, of course, the consequences are potentially, Justin, you like my hat, Alex? Thank you.
Yeah, clean.
It's the hat they like. All right. Like I wanted the black curved one that Kevin Feige has, but I couldn't find that.
Ooh, that would be clean. Yeah. I think the TVA is actually bad, personally.
Yeah,
but that's I don't know how that. Well, theories and predictions. Okay, so what stood out to me the most was literally like the branching of all the multiverse. Like the fact that this Loki literally causes a huge ruckus essentially within the timeline at once, and it's just like
a multiverse of
madness. But like, that's what stood out to me the most for this whole episode, because I did not expect that to happen in episode 2. I did not expect like the appearance of the multiverse
stakes
to happen
were
so
here,
fast.
and now they're here.
Yeah,
and the girl is over there now.
Yeah. So that's what stood out to me the most. Just the fact that they dropped one of the hugest bombs they could ever do, ever, metaphorically and physically within the show, so fast.
Yeah, they blew stuff up. You think Harvey Dent will be in the net, like going, "Hi, I have half a face."
Sorry, guys, my daughter is wide awake right now, but she's back there. Just it's okay.
But, a little guest star in the podcast,
Yeah,
background,
a little background noise.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's move on to this real quick. Predictions and theories. So
you already said the TVA.
Yeah, well, I think they're not good. But the reason why I think they're not good is because Jake threw out a comment earlier over here about Kang being 3 different versions of Kang the Conqueror, the Timekeepers. I haven't thought of that, but that's a good theory. But my theory was that Kang has killed the Timekeepers, the original Timekeepers, and is running the TVA.
Yeah, and Jake was saying he thinks the Timekeepers are 3 different versions of Kang, possibly from different time streams.
Which is just as good theory to me. So it's like on the same level now. Like, now I'm sitting there thinking, like, is that what's actually it is? And then another one is, so prediction. This is a prediction for me. So the No Way Home story that we're going to get for Spider-Man is a repercussion of the time bombs.
I'm starting to, because like when it comes to my predictions and theories, like we talk about Kang, we talk about, and these things seem very likely, so it's easy to buy into them. But I'm kind of like not traumatized, but like still raw from the idea that WandaVision was so wrought with YouTube predictions going all over the place, and they didn't really go anywhere. And this to me is another, like, this one is way too straightforward for me to think that there's going to be any huge reveal. But you got to be honest, the statues kind of look like Kang. So, and his girlfriend's up in here, so it does seem a little bit more likely than a Mephisto showing up. But I don't want to think
with the Mephisto like theories and going on with because of YouTube. Like I haven't theorized anything from Loki from YouTube. Like for WandaVision, it was a bunch of social media being forced on me because it was so hype on social media. But these are all things that I'm calculating in my head myself, knowing my knowledge of what goes on. So like the multiple Kang theory from Jake, I mean, he predicted Lady Loki last time. So, I mean, he's been on the ball so far.
Yeah.
And here in the comments.
That's what I'm saying. It's easier to buy into it.
There's a part of me that thinks he has killed the original Timekeepers and he is controlling everything.
Yeah.
Or the Timekeepers are existing and they might drop a new person into the time stream who is like a super TVA agent, like a super soldier basically for the TVA. And that super soldier is Kang. And he is the person who's going to deal with all the occurrences that are basically happening, basically going through like the time stream and becoming like a Terminator, if you will, instead of being the Conqueror. And then he turns like on the Timekeepers and then tries to take over.
And I think whenever you get to like shows that deal with time like this, you always got to remember like something that has already happened might not have happened yet to an extent. So
exactly,
we could
this was the first time we saw something in the future was in this episode.
If this was Christopher Nolan, right, then the show would end with Loki taking control over the TVA and then going to find his past self and then setting from the beginning. I don't know if the show's going to go that like super bending creative.
I don't think Loki's.
But,
I don't think Loki. I think we're gonna see this. I don't think this is the variant of Loki. I don't think this variant of Loki is going to survive. Essentially, I think he's going to get erased or something's going to happen to him.
Shame.
I think so. If this is the Loki we keep now, if this is like the Loki we have now, that's we're going to maybe be put in back into the main universe, then I'll be happy. But I liked the whole hero's redemption arc that Loki had in the main timeline.
Right, and so okay. Katrina's asking if Loki took the Infinity Stones. I don't think so, because I think at this point the Infinity Stones are small game to him. Like he's looking for the next, power up. That's like, he started an RPG, MMO like 15 years into the future. He's not going to go after like the first anniversary's armor set. That was the best thing. No, he's looking for the new and shiny weapon to do stuff with. Plus, I mean, his reaction to them in the drawer just says it all. Where he's just like, "Oh, my whole journey was nothing." I cared so much about these Infinity Stones.
That would be really devastating. Like the Loki that hasn't gone on this full redemption arc, but tries to redeem himself at the end by saving the Loki that deserves to live.
It would diminish his character to an extent, but at the same time, it would be interesting. But again, I don't want to like throw my hopes out too much, because I don't like what I was going to say earlier is the way WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier ended. If you were to not see those shows, you wouldn't be like extremely confused, because the way Falcon and Winter Soldier ends, Sam is Captain America. Just like in Endgame, Cap gives him the shield. If you never saw what he went through to become Captain America, you would just assume, oh, he's going to be Captain America now. So I don't think these shows are going to do anything to where they become required watching for the plots of the movie. So I don't.
I think this one is though. This one is though. No, I think this one will be though, because the Multiverse of Madness is an actual title of an upcoming movie.
I know. It's just
and No Way Home has been teased. No Way Home has been teased so hard for having multiversal like implications because of all the characters and all the casting choices that they've done already.
Right, and it's you don't have to have this show set that up for that to happen. But the other thing is, like I said, I don't want to throw my hopes out there too much. And like the other prediction I had was the jet ski scene. I believe that's coming, and that's pretty much all I have. We've already talked about Kang. There's, as far as my predictions go, I don't really have much more. We've basically covered all those bases. So unless Lucas.
No, I don't really have anything else. I don't think, because like I said, like this is just everything that I can predict is basically now going into either the multiverse or Kang. So Kang is confirmed for Quantumanium, so we know he's coming. We just don't know in what factor he's coming. And then the multiversal implications, I think, are going to be shown firsthand in the movie universe by being in Spider-Man.
Here's a question. Do you think they'll go to Asgard in this show? Because Loki clearly wants to go to Asgard.
They might.
And I think they're going to...
This is, so let's get into Easter eggs right quick and go right to the big one that I want to talk about.
Right.
Yeah. When they do the time bombs and they start listing off the names of all the occurrences, there's Asgard, there's Vormir, there's Ego, there's Titan, there's all these different places in time where these bombs have went off. So if they went to Ego, that means the whole instance between.
Wait, guys! Star-Lord... I think there's something coming through the window. Oh my God! Is that a? Oh, just kidding. That time got reset. Sorry. What were we talking about? What is this show?
Jake's thinking the TVA exists in the quantum realm. I think quantum realm might exist out of the TVA. I think it might exist outside the TVA. Personally, but that's just
I don't know enough about. Like, I know the quantum realm like there's like a bunch of big centipede worm floaty things
Yeah.
going. Rop, rop, rop.
Granted, it might not because
Katrina's like cringe.
Janet aged correctly because she's the same age as Hank. So
all right. Well, while Lucas is pondering.
Okay. Anyways, so Easter eggs. So sorry, Jake had me all interested out there. Anyways, so all the different worlds, basically planets and different points of time that they showcased within like the list of places getting bombed are all places where big events happen. Titan, the fight with Thanos in Infinity War. We have Ego, where essentially Ego and Star-Lord were fighting each other. Then we have Vormir, where we don't know which time point it's going into. Is it where Thanos threw off Gamora? Is it where Hawkeye and Black Widow fought for the chance to sacrifice himself? We don't know any of that. So somehow, some way, like this variant of Loki knew all these different areas during this huge, all the MCU events, basically all these big MCU events, and dropped the bombs there. So that's the implications that we're about to have. That's crazy.
Yep, and that was, I guess, we'll have to wait and see for that. Another Easter egg was for cinemaphiles. If you listen closely, Loki is having a discussion where they're establishing the differences in types of magic, and that Loki is explaining the difference between illusion magic and like what is it, duplication body duplication magic, and they're different. And this goes, instead of Owen Wilson's traditional "wow," he goes "how." So we still haven't gotten a wow, and I hope the show does have one. But if we're gonna have a close second, that's a great Easter egg to throw in there, where he's like, "How?"
So another one is Ravonna. I swear, I'm sorry, whoever loves that character or knows anything about that character. I keep butchering.
You could just call her Kang's side.
Slayer. Isn't it Slayer? Her name's like R Slayer, right? Isn't it something like that? It's like R Slayer. Anyways, she has a pin that has Roosevelt on it, and that's a throwback to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Renslayer, there we go. Okay. It's a throwback to like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how Roosevelt essentially started S.H.I.E.L.D. So Roosevelt still is a main factor of the MCU. There's something else too that I wanted to point out. Just in the back of during the beginning of the episode when Loki is like learning about the TVA, Miss Minutes is teaching him. It's the little like mascot for the TVA, and she's out on the table bouncing around, and he's like trying to beat her up, and he's like, "Are you living or are you artificial?" She's like, kind of like both. And then finally she gets in the computer. She's like, "You're so mean." And then like while Loki's talking to Mobius in the back, it says failed. So it's like he failed his test because Miss Smith is all sassy butt, even though he's getting all the questions correct.
Yeah, and that was the scene where like I was talking to Jake. It's like if when he's going through like the little on the field quizzes and getting everything right anyways, and Owen Wilson is probably thinking to himself, "Wow, he got all the questions right."
Wow.
You know, you just when you see that, you're like, man, if only we had the kind of like access to where we could have these two characters just have their own procedural cop show where they're doing time stuff instead of going all full scale. Like I don't even need like the Lady Loki villain and these huge stakes. I like them, but like it would still be good if it was just
time cops,
Loki and Mobius time cops,
Loki and Mobius time cops.
You know, that's what's so great, and I don't think we're gonna get that. I just want my Jet DC. And at this point, a lot of people like last episode, Here for a Moment, and you know, Jake, I believe people were talking about Peggy Carter possibly being in the show because it appeared as if she was in the background at the TVA. I'm just gonna rule that one out. Like I do not believe that's gonna happen.
So, quick question for you before we wrap this up. So you know the next show coming out is Marvel What Ifs.
What if, not ifs.
So if they don't fix the repercussions of the time stream, what if those are canon?
What ifs are canon?
Yeah.
That would be cool, but it wouldn't change anything.
It wouldn't change the narrative. It'd just be really cool.
It wouldn't really. I mean, anything it's make believe. So like, if it's a multiverse, you can immediately just say it's canon. But if they were repercussions of the Lady Loki time bombs, it would still just be what if scenarios. So it doesn't excite. It doesn't like.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Like none of them. They're all little anthologies that are not going to come back with repercussions unless I'm completely wrong.
We don't know.
I love Jake's here saying Loki and Moby just saving all the time, all the crime in time, all the time. Yes, that would be like the theme song.
And I don't think we're going to get a fixed time stream. I don't, because like I said, I think this is segueing into Spider-Man No Way Home. And then Multiverse of Madness. And I think Multiverse of Madness is going to be Doctor Strange trying to fix the time stream.
All right, we'll see. But I like with canonical material, it only matters if continuity is key. So if you have like a spin-off movie like Logan in the X-Men,
I agree. I hope they fail. It
doesn't matter. Yeah, that'd be really cool because like we were talking about. So interject into that. So we got first episode makes everything up to this point in the Marvel Universe feel important.
Sorry, guys, we had an invader.
Less important because when you have like the absence of free will, the timekeepers and control everything, what does anything really matter? If the TVA falls, back at square one where anything could happen. But I was saying something before that. I forgot what I was saying. Chat.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, like canonical stuff. Like if you have Logan, doesn't matter whether that's canonical or not because they're not really directly referencing anything that happened in any of the prior movies. So, like I said, I'm not super excited for the establishment of whether What If is canon or not because it's only going to matter if there is continuation from it and continuity is kept up with it. So, whereas the regular Marvel Universe, when we might be getting close to resetting the canon because whenever you have multiverse stuff happening, plus somehow the Fox X-Men are going to come into play at some point. So it stands to reason that they could all of the stuff that's happening and enter us into a completely new world. Now, granted, I don't think they'll do that. I think I think they need to milk the repercussions of the blip return quite a bit more before we start getting into those complete 180-degree redirects because there's a lot more content that we need to see.
At the same time, bringing the TVA into play and like all the timekeeper stuff and like just time in general and showing that Infinity Stones don't matter. Basically, they're just there. Like the blip is the blip isn't Earth, but the blip isn't like a matter either by that point. Because if the timekeepers wanted to, they could just be like, that's the thing, is if the timekeepers wanted to, they could just be like, well, then everybody's back. Like, if they wanted it, they could do it. They're basically like omnipotent almost with what they can control and what they omnipotent, omnipotent. Basically, they can do whatever they want. If it is still the timekeepers and not,
I'm talking about the overall Marvel because if we go back to Earth stories, we don't need to be doing multiverse stories before we've gotten to see how Peter Parker's doing after the blip, how everybody else is doing after the blip. We need to see how Dr. Banner is doing after the blip. We need to see, everybody else.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and then we can get into a satisfactory advancement into this multiverse
Of madness.
And I don't think I think the multiversal madness will be a crazy thing, but like I think ultimately we will just keep the timeline together for a little bit, but the vulnerability of it will be radically exposed.
Uh-huh.
And so that the setup for it eventually breaking, not next year, not the year after, but in the next Avengers multiversal war or Avengers Secret War.
Secret Wars.
Because we still got Secret Invasion, we still got all these other things that have to be covered.
Yeah, essentially. True that. And yeah. Anyways, guys, so I think this wraps it up. So I want you guys to remember to smash the like button, click the sub button, and assemble the notification button to always know when we're putting up new content, guys. And like always, thank you so much for watching. If you watched all the way through, y'all guys are awesome. Thank you for stopping by and joining the chat as well.
Thanks, guys, and stay tuned until next week for a new episode
of
Loki. Action and review.
All right, guys. Deuces.